these are all kind of under the same bucket, which is I need help getting back on track and finding the desire to be involved in the community. I need my mojo back, my inner strength, and my fight. And I need help with not overthinking everything and sticking to a plan. Also, I need to figure out what works for me and blocking everything else out. All right, so what we're going to basically kind of be talking about here is, and we've talked about this many times, but we always need to hear it, right? So first, when I look at these three things, there's a couple things that hit me really obvious. One, do they have those deep reasons why? Kind of going back to my beginning story, going back to what we just talked about a second ago. Do you know why you're doing this? It's gotta be something that's a punch to the gut when you think about it. It honestly has to. You have to be like so connected to the reason you're doing this. And honestly, for me, it comes down to that losing of freedom, of having to be turned away from doing things I want to do, or feeling like I'm not permitted to do things I want to do. Like that freedom being taken away to me is so painful that I will fight against that. Like that drives me, right? And so you got to find your deep why. The second thing is when we're talking about somebody wanting to get back on track, get their mojo back, and overthinking, what that tells me is they have way too many things. So one of my clients, my coaching client, she was doing the awesome points. She had all these things on her awesome points, and she went through a little bit of a rough patch with something going on with work, and she wasn't really executing everything on her awesome points. And I said to her, well, how often are you changing up what you put on there? She goes, I set this 6 months ago, and I just leave it as is. And I said, oh, no, then we're not using it correctly. So the awesome point system is a feedback loop tool. It's you set goals for about 2 weeks. You see how you do. Did you get did you achieve the goal that you set? Did you earn so many awesome points to earn your prize? All that kind of stuff. And then you reevaluate, reassess, and you should be filling out a whole new one, which should have altered behaviors and habits, because you should be getting better at certain ones that maybe you weren't so good at before. And then there might be times where you get sucker punched by life and you get knocked back a few pegs, and you realize that, you know what? I was doing this really well 6 months ago. Maybe I was really good at meal planning. I was really good at walking. I was really good at all this stuff. But for whatever reason, I got sick. My boss gave me somebody else's job. I ended up working, time and a half for a while. My mother was sick. She came and stayed with me. And now I'm standing here like, what just happened? And I'm not anywhere where I was 6 months ago, but I'm still holding on to my awesome point sheet. I'm still expecting myself to do it. No, you've got to dial back what you expect of yourself. So when you've lost your mojo, when you're not focusing on getting back on track, you need to water down the expectations exponentially. It needs to come way down. So let's just pretend 3 weeks ago, before vacation, before whatever, you were doing, meal planning, grocery shopping, tracking your food, pre-tracking your treat, you were going to bed at a certain time, you were getting in your exercise, and now maybe you're really not doing much of any of it. Well, you aren't going to be there. You've got to build back up. So maybe today you just focus on tracking breakfast. Then tomorrow you track breakfast and lunch. Then maybe the next day you track breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And before you know it, by the end of the week, guess what? You're back to tracking. So to check, you got back to one of your things. Then maybe you say, okay, now that I'm back to tracking, let me go ahead and see if I can layer back in meal planning. Okay, that'll be my next thing. Do you see what I mean? If you were doing all the things and now you're not doing all the things, we need to bring you from where you currently are back to where you were. And it's not like, oh, I should be there. Well, that's not working, because if it was, you'd be doing it, right? So what we have to do is kind of start with where we are. I'm not right now tracking. I'm not meal planning. I'm not exercising. So I've got 3 different things that I was once doing, I'm not currently doing. So I'm going to take 3 weeks. And I'm going to work on just the tracking this week. And then the next week I'm going to do the meal planning and the tracking. And then the third week I'm going to do the walking, the tracking, and the meal planning. And it doesn't matter how long it takes you to get back to where you were, because every step you make is a better positive choice than you were doing the day before, which was not doing any of it, right? So we've got to allow ourselves to reevaluate. Our life does not look like this. Do we all agree, right? Our lives do not look like this. We have children, we have jobs, we have responsibilities, we have things that go on we have absolutely no control over, other than how we choose to react to it. So some weeks you might be doing this, some weeks you might be doing this, and some weeks it might be way up here. It might be a great week. And you know what? There's weeks you can handle more and weeks you can't. And what your job is when you know you've gotten knocked off the proverbial horse, right? It's to say, I'm not going to jump right back onto that horse. I'm going to probably have to stand up, dust myself off. I'm going to have to probably find a stool to start to climb back up onto that horse. And then I might get back on the horse, and I'm definitely not taking that horse at full gait. I'm going to start working on just maybe a nice leisurely stroll, working our way back up to it. Because if you get knocked off, right, and you're not on all the things you were doing before, you need a slow transition back. So number one, deep why for these people. What is it you're wanting to avoid? What's the pain point for you? Second, what is it you are not doing that you once were? Take a look at all of those things and don't expect you're going to do them. Give yourself time to build those things back into your life. And then the third thing is time management. If you have not taken our time management course, I cannot begin to tell you how much your time management skills or lack of are leading you to not taking action. Because if you are not very strategic with your time, if you do not say no to the right things and yes to the right things, and you really don't manage your time well, you're going to constantly be in this overstressed, overtaxed, not prioritizing what's important to you state. You only get 24 hours. If you are dedicating your 24 hours to dealing with the kids, dealing with the job, cleaning the house, doing all stuff, and there's no space left in your day for you, then this will be your constant reality. And I don't want to be a bearer of bad news, but you only got 24 hours. You and I, it's the great equalizer. Time equalizes all. You could have more money than me. I could have more talent. This person could have this, but we've all only got 24 hours. So it doesn't matter how talented you are and how rich you are and how much education you have. If you don't use that 24 hours productively, you'll never accomplish anything. I know people who are far out educate me, masters and doctorates, that actually work some jobs that are what would be way below their education level because they don't pursue things that would be at their education level as far as pay is concerned and performance. So you can have great things, but if you don't maximize your time, if you don't pursue things, if you don't use your time wisely to find the things you want, you're always going to be in a struggle. So I would encourage you, look at your 24 hours, because if this feels like it's slipping through your fingers every day, you probably have a time leak on your hands, a place where you're losing your day and you are not dedicating any of it towards yourself and what you want to prioritize.